With the Rogers Centre and Roundhouse Park, Toronto was a picture-perfect spot for Jacob Wallace. The journalism student from American University in Washington, D.C., is spending the early part of his summer studying the connection between baseball and rail travel through the Summer by Rail program, an initiative by the Rail Passengers Association, the oldest and largest advocacy group in this field in the United States. American journalism student Jacob Wallace is touring ballparks to study their connection to local rail systems, stopping in Toronto for this weekend's series between the Blue Jays and Nationals. Rick Matanick, Toronto Star. Toronto was the 12th stop on a 40-day, 19-stadium excursion for Wallace, which started in Miami at the end of May and ends in Seattle on July 1. The goal is to emphasize to baseball fans, travelers, and the general public that there are ways to get around without cars after arriving in a city by train. Wallace said the Toronto leg is one of the high points of his journey. Toronto has definitely been one of the best, Wallace said. You have a variety of options for transportation here. It's also just a really exciting city to be in. I've really enjoyed my time here. This has been definitely one of the highlights. Article continued below. Wallace has walked, taken public transit and used bike share and ride share programs to get to major league and minor league ballparks. I've really come to enjoy all of the minor league games that I'm going to, he said. I just think minor league teams do a really great job of connecting their communities, and I think that's so important. Another reason that rail and baseball are kind of connected is that they both do this job of giving people an experience where they can all come together, and I think minor league teams do a really good job of bringing their local community together and integrating themselves into the fabric of that community. It's been really cool to see. Growing up in Texas, Wallace was a Texas Rangers fan. He got to see the Blue Jays, who have developed a rivalry with the Rangers, beat the Washington Nationals on Friday night. His family also has season tickets to see the Frisco Rough Riders, the Rangers' AA affiliate. He's reliant on cars to get to those games, though. The only way to get anywhere was by car, he said. They're putting in more light rail and stuff, but it was a car-addicted culture. Then I moved to Washington, D.C. for school and I couldn't bring my car with me, and so I learned to be able to rely on public transportation in order to get around, and now I'm used to it. I actually don't miss driving much at all, so it hasn't been a big deal for me on the trip. Along the way, Wallace meets elected officials, advocates and small business owners to find out what tools the communities need to bolster their local infrastructure. While he said he hadn't talked to many officials in Toronto, he did try out a variety of transit options, arriving on a VIA train from Windsor before using the GO train, streetcars and subways. Fans who drive cars to the ballpark, wherever it may be located, generally have the same concerns, he said. The people who drive, universally their biggest complaint is traffic and then parking as well. A lot of people who I have talked to where there's public transportation options available, they'll do that because they prefer that in order to enjoy the experience of going to the game. Article continued below. Wallace has found that the more comprehensive the transportation system is in a particular city, like the one in Toronto, the more fans use it. There are a couple of cities like Cincinnati, where they have the baseline of like a streetcar that's got a 31.5-mile loop, he said. It's nice and people use it, but what you hear a lot is, the more service there is, the more use it gets. And I think people sometimes think if they just start out with one tiny little line, then it'll immediately be a smash hit. It requires support and funding and that sort of stuff in order to create a robust transportation system like it is here in Toronto.